Good day, students. I want you to know at the end of this video, I'm going to review for your first test because the next class you will have will be a test actually after this video. And so we'll take some time at the end of this session and talk a little bit and get you prepared for your test as well. All right, we are just finished the 7 laws of brainstorming in our last class, and I want to just review these. And by the way, these will be on your test, and they'll be a fill in the blank type of answer. So you need to be very familiar with these statements. So maybe we just kind of go through them together. Number 1, everyone is what? Everyone is equal when they come into that brainstorming session. Number 2, take what kind of notes? Take copious notes. Number 3, you leave your egos, and you leave them where? You leave them at the door. Egos left at the door. Hopefully you're familiar with this phrase already. Teamwork makes the dream work. So we all need to work together. No one gets to monopolize the time or the speaking. Very important. Number 6, have a moderator. Boy, you got to have someone leading this brainstorming session. The one who makes sure you get done what you're supposed to. The moderator keeps feeding ideas and directing traffic, and then never more than 7. And I really believe that that's true. Also, don't forget the scriptural basis that we gave for this, the Proverbs 11:14 and the Proverbs 24:6 and the 4 different passages that we looked at, that you need a multitude of counselors. You need to get advice to make war, to make an event. You got to get people to help you develop the strategy, the methods that you're going to use to reach your community for Jesus Christ. Now, the last one was never more than 7. Now we're going to go into another area. What did we learn from our brainstorming? Now, we didn't get the opportunity to brainstorm together. However, I compiled a list of different brainstorming that we've done as a class before for an event that I want to go over because I think they're very similar and they're going to be very much common denominators of probably what you will learn as well. Now, the dynamic that we have when we do the evangelistic event class in person is there's 30, 40, I've had up to 50 students in the class. Well, doing a brainstorming session with that many, you and I both know that had to be a little chaotic. Well, it did. I voted on, we would vote on we didn't really call them a president and a vice president, but that's kind of what they served as. And then I always would have a couple secretaries and a treasurer because we're going to be dealing with finances. So out of the class, they voted for these kind of like officers, a leader, someone that's going to manage the activity. And they would run as much as I could, I'd sit back and they would run the brainstorming session. But I got to tell you, it is very difficult to run a brainstorming session with 30, 40 people. And especially all the same dynamic. They were all college students. So that's why that number 7, you don't want to get higher than that. But there's some things that we learned when we did this. Notice number 1 on your notes, in your Canvas notes. Stay on target. What is the focus group? What were you there for? And I tell you, the more people you get, it's harder to stay on target. Again, you want more than, you want at least 3 people. But the more you get, you got to keep getting that thing to stay on target. Hey, wait, we're talking about something that doesn't even matter anymore. We're not staying on target. Number 2, you've got to decide the event first. So all the brainstorming at first, you cannot be starting to talk about activities you're going to have at an event that you haven't determined what the event is. Now I know that sounds almost like, well, duh, Dr. Shetler. But when you get in one of these, they're talking about stuff like, whoa, we haven't determined yet what the event is, and you're already down on decorations or menu or whatever. You've got, okay, what are we going to do to reach our community? Is this going to be a children's event? Is this going to be a family event? Are we going to reach the military? Are we going to do something for first responders? I know as simple as that sounds. Sometimes it's like, wait, we're talking about stuff and we haven't even determined the event yet. Number 3, decide the date next. Date is going to be important. Now, maybe you've got 2 dates up in the air, but as soon as you can, you have got to solidify, no, this is the date we're going to do. Now, we know there's variables that can change that. That's a whole nother lecture that I'm going to give. What happens when things change? Whether there was a weather, there was a postponement, a pandemic hit, whatever it might be, a lot of events can change. You think about how many events changed in churches last year. I mean, calendars were just tossed away in everything they did. So there's always the possibility to change, but you've got to still have a plan and you've got to have a date. This is where we're headed for. You cannot continue to move forward planning an event without a date for that event. What affects the date? The seasonal activity of what you're going to do, outside, inside, obviously, then weather, the time of the event. So many things can affect the date. What else you got going on your calendar? Okay, so if we do it this date, this is a good Saturday to do this event. This is a good Sunday to do this. It's a good Friday night to do this. But we have 2 other events right before this, and we have another event the following week. Is that too much for our people? We've got to find, look at the rest of the calendar, look at the weather, there's so many things that could affect the date. Number 4, you got to get the budget made. You've got to determine what have we allotted for this. That's going to determine a lot of things. Are we bringing in a speaker? Are we flying them in? Are we giving them lodging? Are there ways that we can cut into that expense? Is there another way to do this? Is there maybe we can hand make these? Maybe we need to change the menu a little bit. Even a nice banquet or whatever. We're going to go from beef to chicken. Well, you probably just saved at least $200 in whatever number you're thinking about. So you got to talk about the budget at some point. You don't necessarily want to talk about budget in a brainstorming because that could stifle the ideas. But at some point now, you got to get the budget made. Advertising, program, menu, props, and location. Now, you could have a whole brainstorming session on how to save money for this. Here's the activity brainstorming group. Here's what we are going to do, and here's the date that it's going to happen. We're trying to save some nickels here. We're trying to save some nickels and dimes. We've got to get the budget down to $1,500. Right now, we're at about $2,100. Let's brainstorm about how we could do that. You could actually have a brainstorming session on how to eliminate costs, and that could be a really good thing as well. You get the menu. Now, you might divide up your brainstorming in or other groups and have a committee just on food. They need to be told when, what the activity is, what the purpose of the activity is, what the decorations are. Okay, now we're going to do food. By the way, decorations a lot of times, no pun intended, feed off of the food idea. Okay, because depending upon what kind of food, you may put decorations, have certain things already on the table and such as well. So get the menu, activities, program made. You got to do that. Number 6, get the name of the activity. And I got to tell you, this is a bigger deal than you think because the name in many ways is going to promote the activity. You want a simple name, a catchy name, and you don't want a lot of words. We did a big spring fest and we called it a spring thing. Well, what's a spring thing? We kind of wanted them to, we were going to have a barbecue, we're going to have games for the family, and it was kind of a community activity. We called it a spring thing, and I'm trying to remember right now. I've done stakeouts. We've done a live nativity. And we called it the Road to Bethlehem. And that was that was an amazing evangelistic endeavor. And we called it the Road to Bethlehem. And we did a big Christmas thing with that. But you got to come up with a name, because that's what you're going to put on your flyers, how you're going to advertise it. And you want it to be pretty catchy as well. So get a name of the activity, and then how are you going to promote it? You have radio spots that community activities are promoted. Obviously, your social media out of your church. What are you going to put in the hands of your church members to get the thing out? We have found doing like tickets, like about the normal size of a ticket, is a lot less in printing, and it's something that you can hand to people. You can put it in stores by the cash register, that there are piles there. That was really, the Road to Bethlehem was just on a little ticket. We did a teacher's appreciation banquet to reach public school teachers with the gospel of Christ. We called it the Apple Awards, Apple with the teacher, and we called it the Apple Awards. And it was a beautiful little ticket. And it looked like you were getting a ticket to the Oscars, and it said the Apple Awards, and we promoted that. What a great idea. And we reached out to our public school teachers and honored them, and then gave them the gospel as well. So how are you going to promote it? Very important. Now, lecture number 4, there is 10 questions. Lecture number 4 is on your, I think this is 10 questions for brainstorming an evangelistic event. So we're still kind of under that brainstorming. You need to know these 10 questions. These will be on your test, and it'll be fill in the blank. So here we go. Number 1, what do you own as a church or individually? What do you own that you can use? So you're thinking about that in the brainstorming session. The Johnsons have a piece of property that is, have you ever been out to the Johnsons farm? It's absolutely gorgeous. We could have an activity out there. It's in a section, it's right off the interstate. And even though it's out in the country, people could get to that very easily. That's how these farm fests and these harvest fests in Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, Illinois, that's how they all started. People kind of lent a piece of property, and they bring teenagers from all over the state to come to one of these activities. So maybe somebody's got some property that could be used. Maybe somebody owns a company that you could utilize as a resource for your activity. But what do you own as a church? Maybe we did this, we were talking about the Road to Bethlehem. We had a piece of property that was about 150 yards wide, over 800 yards long, half mile. It was a half mile long, and it was 150 yards wide. It was like a pencil, it was a long piece of property, but it was connected to 2 major highways in Santa Maria, California. Well, we saw people could drive in the one, drive through a live nativity, a Road to Bethlehem, and then exit out on a completely different boulevard. Well, we utilized what we had, and we utilized our property. It was a perfect piece of property to drive through and do this drive-through nativity. What do you own that you can use? Number 2, what do others have that they can use? And again, I kind of put these both together, but I think that's a good question. What do others have that they can use? Number 3, what can you do that can be used? Okay, now not what you have, but what can you do? Maybe there's people in your church, maybe you have some really good volleyball players. Maybe you have some really good basketball players or softball players. Maybe you have some really good musicians that could do something that could be used for an evangelistic endeavor. You just happen to have 3 or 4 very good basketball players. Well, figure out a 3-on-3 basketball tournament, or utilize them to go to parks. whatever somebody can do, not what they have right now, but something somebody can do. Maybe they're very good with social media, IT, doing videos. Utilize their videography for the cause of Christ. Utilize what people can do in your church. Number 4, what can others do that can be used? Number 5, what do you have in your area that people enjoy? Okay, so maybe you're kind of in a tourist area. Maybe you're in an area that has beautiful color changes in the fall. I don't know, but what do people do in your area that you live that they enjoy? Because whatever they enjoy, they'll come out to do. In Santa Maria, let me tell you what was a big deal was tri-tip. Matter of fact, it's even called Santa Maria tri-tip. It's worldwide known. And we barbecue this meat on a grill. Well, anything to do with tri-tip got people out for an activity. It was a big deal. I pastored in Pensacola, very big naval area. You bring out anything for patriotism, especially the Navy and the military, you're going to get people to come to that because it's a big naval community. So what do you have in your area people enjoy? Number 6, what do people need done in your area? So you have a brainstorming session because you just had a hurricane. You have a brainstorming session because you just had a natural disaster. A tornado came through. You get together with some people. How can we reach these people now that their homes have been decimated? What can we do with that? So maybe it's what people need done in your area. Number 7, how will we promote the event? You got to ask those questions. So we've got this event. How are we going to get people to come to this event? Do we have a lot of people in our church that know this kind of people that we're going to deal with? Okay, we want to do a community event that's going to be evangelistic for single moms. Okay, that's great. How are you going to promote this? And do you know of a lot of single moms in your community? Because if you don't, you're not going to have anyone that comes to this activity. How did you promote it? Very important. Number 8, how much of my resources can I spend? What do we have that we can use? Very important. Number 9, how much time do I have before the event? Are we dealing with something a year down the road? Or are we dealing with something like in 30 days? Because that's going to make a huge difference. And then this is one of your projects, is putting together a planner. If it's going to be, we're going to do this event in 6 months. Well, then you better be doing, what do you do this month right now? What about next month? What about the next month? What all has to be achieved by 3 months out, 4 months out, a month out, 2 weeks out? That's where you put your planner together and you develop what has to be done along the way. How much time do I have before the event? Number 10, where will it be held? What's going to be the location of it? These are all very legitimate questions I want you to know the answers to as you put together your evangelistic endeavor. Some of these questions are actually on one of your projects. When you put your planner together, you put your event together, you got to ask some of these very questions you have to answer. I don't think I have every one of them, but they are. So I want you to know the 10 questions for brainstorming. They will be in your test as a fill in the blank. There won't be more than 2 blanks for any one statement, but there may be 2 blanks, maybe 1 blank. You got to fill that in. You got to have the exact word on Canvas that you put in. So we're kind of done with our lecture here, and now you're ready for your first test. So if you'd go back over your notes and mark some things. Remember the passage in Luke chapter 5. They sought what? They sought means. Make sure you know that statement. They sought means to bring him in. They tried to figure out different ways. Know this definition of event evangelism. A church activity outside of services and door to door that is designed to attract the lost and prepare them to receive a gospel presentation. You will see that sentence with about 3 blanks in it. You got to put the exact word that's in your sentence in those blanks. So be familiar with that. Know this statement: a church tool to work on sinners' heart. You'll also have to put a fill in the blank for that. There may be some true false questions out of some of those other thoughts as well in that. And then rolling stones away, you need to know all the C words. You need creativity, you need confidence, you need clarity and confession, you need character, you need consistency, you need compassion. You need to know all you will have to write out, or you'll have to give all 6 of the C's. So make sure that you know those. The 7 laws of brainstorming, they will be blanks. They may not be the blanks that you wrote in. They may be, but they may not be the same blanks. So make sure that you are familiar with all 7 of those statements that you can put the word in. And because of Canvas, it's got to be the exact word that we have. So make sure that you have a familiarity with that. And then what did we learn from brainstorming? Some of that will be, I will put together some true false questions as well on your first test. So the next thing you'll do after this video is you'll take the test, and then we're going to get into a clear gospel presentation. And I want to make sure all of you have a great understanding of the gospel. I want to take a moment and I want to pray, and I want to pray for also your project. So you don't forget the evangelizing your community survey. Matter of fact, I think that maybe has already been due. But make sure that you have that. The next one is the book report, Out of Commission. Great book by Pastor Chappell. I think will help you. That's due February 10th. That's just about probably where you guys are now as well. Okay, then we've got a test, and is your next class. And then right after that will be, we'll talk about the gospel presentation. Father, thank you for what we've learned. I look forward to hearing results of these lectures on brainstorming and getting a multitude of counselors together. I pray that you would help the students on their tests. May nobody cheat. May they do well. They need to learn these things, Lord. This will help them greatly in ministry down the road. So I pray that they will have studied well and be prepared to take the test. And be with them now. Help them in all of their projects. May they be starting to put together their evangelistic endeavors of what they're going to do. Maybe already started them. That would be great. We pray these things in Christ's name. Amen. Hey, just before you go, I wanted to tell you this. Don't forget now, a part of your class is doing your evangelistic endeavor. So you're not going to get as many lectures. That's why you've got to record the time that you spent on your evangelistic endeavors. We still have several lectures, but you're not going to have as many lectures as you would normally have in a class. And so you are to, my classes back here, part of their class time was actually doing the evangelistic endeavor. So I'm giving you that time interwoven right with this class. Okay? All right, I hope that's a help.